They gave her 3 days to run. 3 days to vanish from the kingdom or face execution. What those arrogant fools did not realize was that something ancient was listening from the shadows above. Something with hair white as bone and eyes that glowed like dying stars. Something that had ended entire bloodlines before breakfast and erased kingdoms from history before dinner. The vampire king had not planned to interfere in human politics tonight. He had only come out of boredom, curious about whispers of corruption. But the moment he saw her stand before those corrupt cowards, wrists bound in iron, chin lifted, spine unbroken, refusing to beg for mercy she did not need, something inside him shifted. Darius Corvain leaned forward in the darkness, a slow dangerous smile spreading across his face. She reminded him of someone. Someone he had failed to save centuries ago. Someone whose ashes still haunted his dreams. Not this time. This time, the healer would live. The council would fall. And every single person who voted for her death would learn exactly why their ancestors signed that treaty in blood and terror. They thought they were ending her story tonight. They had no idea they were beginning his. The council chamber smelled of old wood and older hatred. Thalia Brennan stood in the center of the marble floor, wrists bound in iron, chin lifted despite the tremble in her knees. Torchlight flickered against stone walls carved with the kingdom's laws that were now being twisted like wire around her throat. You have 3 days to leave this kingdom or you die. The words came from Councilman Vero, his jowls shaking with each syllable, his ringed fingers drumming on the oak table like a death march. The other council members nodded, their faces carved from the same cold stone as the walls. Thalia's voice came out steady, stronger than she felt. For what crime? Healing a child? For practicing unauthorized medicine, Vero spat. For undermining the royal physicians. For witchcraft. I used herbs. Fennel and willow bark. A child was dying in. Silence. Vero stood, his chair scraping like nails on a coffin. The decision is final. 3 days. If you are found within our borders after sunset on the 3rd day, you will be executed as a witch and an enemy of the crown. Thalia felt the walls closing in. She had no family. No coin. Nowhere to go. The Brennan name had once meant something in this kingdom, before her father was accused of treason, before her mother died of shame, before she was left alone with nothing but her hands and her knowledge of healing. You're sentencing me to death either way, she whispered. The northern roads are filled with raiders. A woman alone. Then you should have thought of that before you meddled in affairs above your station. The council members began gathering their papers, the matter settled in their minds. Thalia was already dead to them. Already erased. But they had made one catastrophic mistake. They assumed they were alone. High above the council chamber, in the shadows where the torchlight never reached, something moved. Not wind. Not rats. Something far older and infinitely more dangerous. Darius Corvain, the vampire king, had been alive for 7 centuries. He had watched kingdoms rise and fall like wheat before the scythe. He had ended bloodlines with a whisper and toppled thrones before breakfast. His hair, white as bone and long enough to brush his shoulders, caught the faint light as he tilted his head, listening. He had come to this pathetic council meeting out of boredom, curious about the rumors of corruption in the human government. The kingdom technically fell under his protection, an ancient treaty signed in blood and fear, but he rarely involved himself in human squabbles. Until now. He watched the woman, this Thalia Brennan, and something in her defiance struck a chord he thought had long since gone silent. She stood like a queen before executioners, like his own sister had once stood, centuries ago, before she was burned by men who feared what they could not control. His eyes, dark as a moonless night, began to gleam red. 3 days, he murmured to himself, a smile playing at his lips. How generous. He could have revealed himself then. Could have dropped from the rafters and painted the walls with their terror. But Darius Corvain had always appreciated timing. Drama. The perfect entrance. And he had just decided that Thalia Brennan would not be leaving this kingdom. But the council would. In pieces, if necessary. You've just watched a woman be sentenced to death by cowards who have no idea the storm that's coming. If you're already hooked, if you're already wondering what Darius is about to do, then do me one favor. Don't just sit there. Subscribe. Join the fastest growing vampire love stories community on YouTube. We're building something special here, and I need you in it. One click. That's all it takes. And tell me in the comments, where in the world are you watching from? I love knowing where my story family is gathering. Now let's see what happens when a vampire king decides you're worth protecting. Thalia was escorted from the chamber by 2 guards who wouldn't meet her eyes. Shame, perhaps. Or indifference. She couldn't tell anymore. The corridor was long and dim, lined with portraits of kings who had been dust for generations. Her footsteps echoed. Each one sounded like a countdown. 3 days. 72 hours to gather nothing, say goodbye to no one, and vanish into a world that devoured women like her. The guards stopped at the outer door. One of them unlocked her wrist irons. The other finally spoke. I'm sorry. My daughter, the one you saved last winter, she still talks about you. Thalia looked at him. His face was worn, conflicted. Then why didn't you speak for me in there? His jaw tightened. I have 3 more children to feed. She understood. Fear made cowards of good men. The council had ensured that. He opened the door and she stepped into the cold night air. The door slammed behind her, final as a coffin lid. She stood alone in the courtyard, looking up at the stars. Somewhere beyond this kingdom was a life she might survive. But her heart was here. Her parents were buried here. The people she had healed, the children she had saved, they were here. Leaving would be the smart thing, she whispered to herself. So why does it feel like dying? Because exile is just a slower execution. The voice came from everywhere and nowhere. Deep. Smooth as silk over a blade. Thalia spun, her heart hammering, but saw nothing except shadows. Then the shadows moved. He stepped from the darkness like he had been born from it. Tall, impossibly so, dressed in black that seemed to drink the moonlight. His coat was tailored, expensive, ancient in style but immaculate. But it was his face that stole her breath. Beautiful. Dangerously so. Sharp cheekbones, a jaw that could have been carved by an artist with a grudge against mediocrity. And his hair, white as fresh snow, long and perfectly wild, framing eyes that glowed faint red in the darkness. Thalia took a step back. Who are you? His smile was slow, deliberate, the kind of smile that had preceded 1,000 last words. Darius Corvain. The most call me the Vampire King, usually right before they beg. He tilted his head, studying her like she was a puzzle he intended to solve. You, however, may call me Darius. I insist. Her blood turned to ice. Everyone knew the name. The ancient terror. The unkillable shadow. The monster parents invoked to frighten children into obedience. You're real, she breathed. Disappointingly so, I'm told. He took a step closer. She held her ground, though everything in her screamed to run. I was in your delightful council chamber this evening. Dreadful acoustics, by the way. But the entertainment was memorable. You heard them. Every self-righteous word. His eyes narrowed, the red glow intensifying. Tell me, Thalia Brennan, do you know why men like Vero fear women like you? She swallowed hard. Because I don't need their permission to do good? Close. He circled her slowly, like a predator, but there was something else in his gaze. Curiosity. Respect. Because you remind them that power without purpose is just noise. And they are very, very noisy. Why are you here? He stopped directly in front of her, close enough that she could see her reflection in his eyes. Because I have a particular hatred for bullies. And because watching you stand before those cowards with your chin up and your spine straight reminded me of someone I lost a long time ago. His voice softened, just for a moment, before the dangerous smile returned. And because I've just decided that you're not going anywhere. I don't understand. You will. He extended his hand, palm up, an invitation. You have two choices, Thalia. Run, and spend the rest of your short life looking over your shoulder. Or trust me, and watch me remind this kingdom exactly who holds the leash. Trust a vampire? His laugh was low, rich, genuinely amused. I know. The irony is delicious, isn't it? He leaned in, his voice dropping to a whisper that sent shivers down her spine. But here's the truth, darling. Vampires are honest about what we are. We don't pretend to be noble while condemning innocence. I may be a monster, but at least I'm not a hypocrite. Thalia's mind raced. This was insane. He was a legend, a nightmare, a creature that shouldn't exist outside of fireside warnings. But he was also the only person, human or otherwise, who had stood up for her in months. What do you want from me? Absolutely nothing. His hand remained extended. What I want is to give you something. Justice. Safety. And if we're being honest, a front row seat to what happens when someone makes me genuinely angry. She looked at his hand. Pale. Steady. Offering something she thought she'd lost. Hope. This is madness. The very best things always are. Thalia Brennan, healer, orphan, condemned woman, made a choice that would change everything. She placed her hand in his. His fingers closed around hers, cool but not cold, strong but not crushing. And when he smiled this time, it was different. Genuine. Almost warm. Excellent. Now, let's go ruin some very deserving lives, shall we? Darius led her through the empty streets with the confidence of someone who had never known fear. Thalia's heart still raced, her mind screaming that this was a mistake, that trusting a vampire was like trusting a flame not to burn. Where are we going? She asked, half running to keep pace with his long strides. Somewhere safe. Somewhere they won't dare follow. He glanced at her. My estate, just beyond the northern woods. Your estate is real? I thought it was a myth. Most myths are just truth with better marketing. Despite everything, she almost smiled. But reality crashed back quickly. This won't work, she said, stopping in the middle of the cobblestone street. You can't just interfere with the council. There are laws, treaties, which they broke the moment they condemned you without evidence or trial. He turned to face her fully. The treaty I signed with this kingdom 300 years ago guaranteed justice for all citizens. Your council has been wiping their feet on that agreement for decades. I've been patient. Watching. Waiting for them to correct course. His eyes blazed. Tonight, my patience died. They'll come after you. His laugh echoed off the buildings. Darling, I've ended armies. Vero and his performing seals don't worry me. Then why now? Why me? Her voice cracked. I'm nobody. A dead man's daughter with no name, no power, nothing worth. Stop. The command was soft but absolute. He closed the distance between them in one fluid motion. You saved a child's life with herbs and knowledge while royal physicians stood by and charged fees. You stood before corrupt men and refused to apologize for doing good. You are brave, skilled, and kind in a world that punishes all three. His gaze held hers. If you think that's nothing, then they've already beaten you. Don't give them that victory. Thalia felt tears threaten. No one had spoken to her like that since her father died. Like she mattered. Like she was more than a problem to be solved or discarded. I don't know if I can do this, she whispered. You don't have to know. You just have to let me handle the monsters. His smile turned wicked. I speak their language fluently. She wanted to believe him. Wanted to let someone else carry the weight for once. But trust was a muscle she hadn't used in years. What if this is a mistake? Then it's yours to make. But I promise you, Thalia Brennan, the only people who will regret tonight are the ones who underestimated you. Something in his voice, ancient and certain, steadied her. 3 days, she said quietly. That's all I have. No. He offered his arm like a gentleman from a forgotten age. 3 days is what they gave you. I'm giving you a kingdom. The Corvain estate was not a myth. It was a masterpiece. Hidden deep in the northern woods, the manor rose from the mist like something out of a fever dream. Black stone, elegant architecture, windows that glowed with warm light despite the hour. It was beautiful and terrifying in equal measure. Just like its owner. Darius led her inside, past hallways lined with art that belonged in royal collections, through rooms that whispered of centuries. Servants appeared and disappeared like ghosts, efficient and silent. He brought her to a sitting room where a fire crackled in a hearth large enough to stand in. You'll stay here, he said, gesturing to the space. The entire east wing is yours. No one will disturb you without permission. Thalia looked around, overwhelmed. Velvet furniture. Silk curtains. Bookshelves that stretched to vaulted ceilings. This is too much. This is necessity. If you're under my protection, you'll be safe, comfortable, and treated with the respect that Council of Fools denied you. He moved to a side table and poured deep red liquid into 2 glasses. He caught her expression and smirked. Wine, darling. I don't drink blood from glassware. So uncivilized. He handed her a glass. She took it with trembling hands. Why are you doing this? Darius was quiet for a moment, staring into the fire. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of centuries. I had a sister once. Arya. She was a healer too, in a time when that was called witchcraft. I was younger then, less powerful, still learning what I was. His jaw tightened. I was away when they came for her. When I returned, all that was left was ash and the smell of burning flesh. Thalia's breath caught. Darius, I'm so sorry. I killed every man responsible. Their families. Their allies. I burned that entire village to bedrock. He looked at her, his eyes haunted. But it didn't bring her back. Revenge is satisfying, but it's cold comfort in the long centuries. Then why help me? Because this time, I'm here. This time, I can do what I couldn't do then. He set his glass down. Save the healer before the cowards destroy her. The vulnerability in his voice cracked something in Thalia's chest. This ancient, terrifying creature was just as haunted as she was. Just as lonely. I remind you of her. You do. But you're also entirely yourself. stubborn, reckless, brave beyond any sense. A small smile. She would have liked you. They sat in silence, the fire crackling between them. Two broken people, separated by species and centuries, connected by grief and the strange gravity of the moment. What happens now? Thalia finally asked. Darius's smile returned, sharp and full of promise. Now, I pay a visit to the council. Remind them of the old agreements. The ones written in blood. You're going to kill them. Only if they're rude. Darius. He looked at her, amusement dancing in his eyes. Fine. I'll be merciful. Ish. He stood, his coat swirling like smoke. Rest, Thalia. Tomorrow, we begin rewriting your story. He moved toward the door, then paused. And Thalia? Welcome home. The door closed softly behind him, leaving her alone with the fire, the wine, and the impossible feeling that maybe, just maybe, she wasn't alone anymore. What do you think Darius is about to do to that council? Drop your predictions in the comments. Thalia couldn't sleep. The bed was too soft, the room too quiet, her mind too loud. She kept replaying the council's faces, Darius's words, the impossible turn her life had taken in mere hours. She rose, wrapped in a borrowed silk robe, and wandered the halls. The estate was alive even in darkness. Candles floated without holders, casting dancing shadows. Portraits watched her pass, their eyes too knowing. She found herself in a library that smelled of leather and old paper. Books in languages she couldn't read lined the walls. But one section caught her eye. A glass case, carefully locked, containing a single journal. The leather was cracked with age, the pages yellowed. And on the first visible page, sketched in fading ink, was a woman's face. Beautiful. Kind eyes. Dark hair woven with flowers. Arya. I wondered if you'd find that. Thalia spun. Darius stood in the doorway, still dressed in black, but his coat was gone and his sleeves were rolled to his elbows. He looked more human like this. Almost vulnerable. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to pry. You weren't. He entered the library, moving to the case with the reverence of someone approaching a grave. I leave it visible because forgetting her would be a greater crime than anything done to her. He unlocked the case with a key from his pocket and carefully removed the journal, handling it like it might disintegrate. She kept this. Recipes for medicines, sketches of plants, notes on treatments. His voice was soft. She saved more lives than the plague took that year. And they burned her for it because the village priest said God alone should heal. How old were you? 203. Still young for a vampire. Still stupid enough to think I could leave her unprotected. He turned a page, revealing more sketches, more careful notes. When I found what they'd done, I lost myself. Spent 50 years as nothing but rage and blood. Became the monster they'd already decided I was. Thalia stepped closer. What brought you back? Time. And the realization that Arya would have hated what I'd become. He closed the journal carefully. She believed people were better than their worst moments. That redemption was always possible. I never had her faith, but I try to honor it. Most days. Is that why you don't kill indiscriminately? His smile was dark. I didn't say that. I said I try. There's a difference. He placed the journal back in its case, locked it, and turned to face her fully. The council has been corrupt for 30 years, Thalia. Since Lord Greaves died and Vero seized power. They've executed 17 people on false charges. Stolen land, wealth, futures. all while hiding behind law and order. His eyes glowed faintly. I've been building a case against them. Documentation. Witnesses too terrified to speak. Tonight, you became the final piece. What do you mean? You're innocent. Clearly, undeniably innocent. If they'll condemn you, they'll condemn anyone. That breaks the treaty. Which means I'm no longer bound to stay out of their politics. Thalia's heart raced. You've been waiting for this. For an excuse. I've been waiting for irrefutable justification. He stepped closer. There's a difference between vengeance and justice. Arya taught me that. Justice requires patience. Evidence. The moral high ground. His smile turned predatory. But once you have those things, justice can be just as satisfying as revenge. What are you going to do? Tomorrow, I'm going to visit the council. Present the evidence. Give them one chance to abdicate peacefully and face trial. He paused. They won't take it. And then? Then I remind them why their ancestors signed that treaty in the first place. The weight of his words settled over her. This wasn't just about her. It had never been just about her. She was the catalyst for something that had been building for decades. You're going to overthrow the government. I'm going to remove a corrupt council and restore legitimate rule. There's a difference. Is there? He laughed, genuine and surprised. You argue with a vampire king in his own home. Either you're the bravest woman I've ever met or the most foolish. Maybe both. Definitely both. His expression softened. Get some rest, Thalia. Tomorrow changes everything. She should have been terrified. Should have run. But standing in that library, surrounded by centuries of memory and grief, she felt something else entirely. Safe. Morning came with unexpected warmth. Thalia woke to sunlight streaming through windows and the smell of fresh bread. A servant had laid out clothes in her size, simple but well-made, in deep forest green. There was a note in elegant script. These suit you better than silk. Wear comfort, not costume. D. She smiled despite herself. Breakfast was waiting in a sunlit conservatory filled with plants she recognized. Medicinal herbs, rare flowers, climbing vines that shouldn't grow in this climate. Darius sat at a small table, reading a letter, a cup of something dark and steaming in his hand. He looked up when she entered, and something flickered across his face. Appreciation, maybe. Or surprise. Green is definitely your color. Thank you for this. All of this. She sat across from him. You didn't have to. I know. That's why I wanted to. He set the letter aside. I took the liberty of having my people retrieve your belongings from your cottage. What little there was. Her throat tightened. The council will know you're involved now. Good. I'm done with subtlety. He poured her tea with surprising domesticity. Besides, I wanted you to have your father's medical journals. They're in your room. Thalia's eyes burned with sudden tears. Those journals were all she had left of her father, his life's work, and she thought they were lost. How did you know about those? I pay attention. He said it simply, like it was obvious. You mentioned your father once in the council chamber. The way you said it, I knew they mattered. I don't know how to thank you. Then don't. Just keep being exactly who you are. Stubborn. Brilliant. Impossibly kind despite every reason not to be. He smiled. It's refreshing. They ate in comfortable silence, sunlight painting patterns on the floor. Thalia found herself watching him. The way he moved, efficient and graceful. The way his eyes caught the light. The unexpected gentleness in his hands as he handled things. "Can I ask you something?" she ventured. "Always. Do you ever get lonely? Living for centuries, watching everyone age and die?" Darius was quiet for a long moment, his expression distant. "Every single day," he finally said. "Immortality is a gift that becomes a curse around the 2nd century. You watch the world change, people you care about turn to dust, and you just continue. Unchanging. Unmoved by time." He looked at her. "But occasionally, very occasionally, you meet someone who makes the long years feel less heavy." The air between them shifted, charged with something unspoken. "I'm mortal, Darius. I'll be dust too, eventually." "I know." His voice was soft. "But eventually isn't today. Today, you're here. Arguing with me. Making me remember why I bother protecting this ridiculous world." He reached across the table, his hand hovering near hers. "May I?" She nodded. His fingers brushed hers, cool and careful, like he was handling something precious. "You feel warm," he murmured. "I'd forgotten what that feels like." "You feel safe," she whispered back. "I'd forgotten what that feels like." They sat like that, hands barely touching, the sun warming them both. Two lonely souls, finding unexpected comfort in the last place either expected. "This is insane," Thalia said, not pulling away. "Completely." Darius smiled. "But I've lived 700 years doing the sensible thing. Perhaps it's time to try something different." "Like what?" "Like caring about someone more than I care about being untouchable." Her breath caught. "Darius. I know it's too soon. I know you have every reason to fear me. But I haven't felt this alive, this present, in 2 centuries. His thumb traced small circles on her wrist. "You walked into my existence like a storm, Thalia Brennan, and I don't want you to leave. I'm not going anywhere. Promise me." "I promise." The moment hung between them, fragile and impossibly real. Then a bell chimed somewhere deep in the house, breaking the spell. Darius sighed, pulling back reluctantly. "Time to visit the council. Would you like to watch me be terrifying?" Despite everything, she laughed. "Is that an option? For you?" "Always." The council chamber looked different in daylight. Less imposing. More pathetic. Darius had arranged the meeting with one simple message delivered at dawn: "We need to discuss treaty violations. Come alone or don't come at all. D. Corvain." Thalia watched from a concealed gallery above, exactly where Darius had watched her condemnation. The symmetry wasn't lost on her. The council members arrived looking annoyed and defensive. Vero in front, puffed up like an agitated toad. "This is highly irregular, Corvain. The council doesn't answer to summons from." "Sit down." Darius's voice carried no volume, but the command in it was absolute. Every council member sat as if their strings had been cut. He stood at the center of the chamber, white hair catching the light, dressed in black that seemed to absorb the shadows. He looked every inch the ancient king he was. "Gentleman. And I use that term loosely." He began to pace, slow and predatory. "We need to discuss your recent violation of our treaty. Specifically, the unlawful condemnation of Thalia Brennan." Vero's face reddened. "That matter is settled. She was given mercy, a chance to leave peacefully." "Mercy?" Darius smiled, and it was a terrible thing. What an interesting word for exile based on fabricated charges. She practiced medicine without authorization. That's illegal. According to a law you passed 6 months ago, specifically designed to target her after she saved a child your royal physicians had given up on. Darius pulled out a document, letting it unfold. I have the drafts. Your handwriting, Vero. Naming her specifically. The color drained from Vero's face. Furthermore, Darius continued, his voice gaining an edge that could cut stone. I have documentation of 17 other unlawful executions or exiles. Theft of property. Bribery. Extortion. All committed by this council over 30 years. He let the papers fall, scattering across the marble floor like accusations. The treaty I signed with this kingdom guaranteed justice and rule of law. You've made a mockery of both. As of this moment, you are all removed from power, pending trial for corruption and murder. Vero shot to his feet, shaking with rage. You have no authority here, creature. This is a human kingdom with human laws. Your kind has no say in our governance. My kind? Darius tilted his head. How fascinating. Tell me, Vero, when you signed trade agreements using my roads, my protection, my resources, did my kind bother you then? We tolerate you because we must. But you are not our king. You're a monster we're forced to appease. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. A monster. Darius's eyes began to glow, bright red, burning. You condemn innocents, steal from widows, execute children, and I'm the monster? You feed on blood. You're an abomination against nature and God. And yet I've killed fewer innocents this century than you have this year. Vero's hand moved to his belt. Too fast. Too desperate. The silver dagger flashed in the light as he lunged. Darius didn't move. Didn't even blink. The blade stopped an inch from his chest, held in place by Darius's hand, which had moved faster than sight. Silver, Darius observed calmly, examining the blade. How traditional. Also, how ineffective. He squeezed. The blade shattered like glass. Then his other hand shot out, gripping Vero by the throat, lifting him off his feet. You just attempted to assassinate me under a flag of truce. In front of witnesses. Darius's voice was conversational, almost bored. Do you know what the penalty for that is? Vero choked, clawing at Darius's hand. From her hiding place, Thalia watched in horror. Not at Darius's violence, but at what she saw in his eyes. Nothing. No anger. No satisfaction. Just cold, ancient emptiness. This wasn't the man who had held her hand that morning. This was the creature who had ended bloodlines. The monster who had burned villages. Darius, stop. Her voice rang out before she could stop herself. She stood, visible now, breaking the safety he'd arranged. Every head turned toward her. Darius's eyes found hers, and for a moment, something human flickered there. Confusion. Maybe shame. Thalia, go back. Not until you put him down. He tried to kill me. And you're better than this. Better than him. She descended the stairs, her heart hammering, walking toward a vampire king holding a man's life in his hand. You told me justice isn't the same as vengeance. Prove it. Darius stared at her. The chamber was silent except for Vero's choking. He deserves this. Maybe. But you deserve better than becoming what they fear. Something cracked in Darius's expression. Pain. Ancient and deep. You don't know what I am, Thalia. What I've done. Then show me who you want to be. The words hung in the air. Slowly, so slowly, Darius's hand opened. Vero collapsed to the floor, gasping and coughing. But the damage was done. Darius looked at Thalia, and in his eyes was a war between the man and the monster. You should go, he said quietly. Before you see something that changes how you look at me. Darius. Leave. Please. The please broke her heart. But the emptiness in his eyes terrified her. Thalia turned and walked away, every step in agony, leaving Darius alone in that chamber with his demons and his rage. Thalia locked herself in her room for hours. Her hands shook as she paced. The image wouldn't leave her mind. Darius holding Vero like he weighed nothing, that emptiness in his eyes, the casual way he'd shattered a blade with his bare hand. She'd known what he was. Known his history. But knowing and seeing were different countries entirely. A soft knock at the door made her freeze. Thalia. It was a woman's voice. Older. Kind. May I enter? She opened the door to find an elderly woman with silver hair and sharp eyes. She carried a tea tray and the bearing of someone who'd served in this house for decades. I'm Margot. I've been with Master Darius for 70 years. She entered without waiting for permission, setting the tray down. You saw him lose control. It wasn't a question. He nearly killed that man. But he didn't. Because of you. Margot poured tea with steady hands. Do you know how rare that is? For him to stop once he started? That doesn't make it better. No. But it makes it significant. Margot handed her a cup. I was 20 when I came here. Dying of fever. The village had cast me out, said I was cursed. Master Darius found me on his doorstep and spent 3 days nursing me back to health himself. Her eyes grew distant. I've watched him save hundreds. Protect thousands. But I've also seen what he becomes when the monster wins. Why are you telling me this? Because you need to understand what you're walking away from. And what he's terrified of losing. Margot met her gaze. He cares for you. More than he's cared for anyone since Arya. And that terrifies him more than any enemy ever has. Where is he now? The West Tower. Where he always goes when he hates himself. Thalia set down her cup. I didn't say I was going to him. Margot smiled. You didn't have to. The West Tower was cold and empty except for a single chair facing a window. Darius sat perfectly still, staring out at the darkening sky. He'd removed his coat. His white hair was loose, falling past his shoulders. He looked tired. Ancient. You should have stayed away, he said without turning. Probably. Thalia stepped inside. But I've never been good at doing what I should. I could have killed him, Thalia. Would have, if you hadn't stopped me. His voice was hollow. That's who I am. What I am. A creature that solves problems with violence and calls it justice. Is that what you think I saw? It's what I know you saw. She moved closer, her footsteps echoing. I saw a man who's been carrying grief and rage for centuries finally reach his breaking point. I saw someone who spent so long being the monster everyone expects that he's forgotten he has a choice. There is no choice. This is my nature. Your nature stopped when I asked. Your nature listened. She stood beside his chair now, looking down at him. A real monster wouldn't have. You can't possibly understand what it's like. The hunger. The anger. The endless years of watching people I care about die while I remain. He finally looked at her, and his eyes were haunted. "I'm so tired, Thalia. Tired of being alone. Tired of being feared. Tired of becoming the thing they're afraid of because it's easier than fighting it. Then stop fighting alone. I almost killed a man in front of you. A man who's condemned 17 innocents and tried to murder you." She knelt beside his chair, forcing him to meet her eyes. "I'm not saying what you did was right. It wasn't. But I'm also not going to pretend Vero is some innocent victim. You should be terrified of me. I was. For about an hour." She reached out slowly, giving him time to pull away, and took his hand. "Then I realized something. You've had 700 years to perfect being a monster. You could have killed everyone in that chamber without breaking a sweat. But you didn't. You held back. You listened. You stopped. Because of you." "Exactly." She squeezed his hand. "That's not weakness, Darius. That's strength. Real strength. The kind that chooses mercy when vengeance would be easier." He stared at their joined hands like he couldn't quite believe they were real. "I don't deserve your forgiveness. Good thing I'm not offering it yet." Her voice was firm. "You scared me today. You showed me a side of yourself that I'm not sure I'm ready to handle. And if this, whatever this is between us, is going to work, you need to promise me something. Anything. Promise me you'll try. Try to choose the man over the monster. Try to let someone in. Try to believe that you're more than 700 years of mistakes." She brought his hand to her cheek. "I can't fix you, Darius. I'm not Arya. I'm not your redemption. But I can stand beside you while you figure out who you want to be." His hand trembled against her skin. "What if I fail? What if the monster wins? Then I'll remind you who you are. As many times as it takes." She smiled softly. "That's what people do when they care about someone. You care about me." He said it like he was testing the words. "A vampire. A killer. I care about you. Darius Corvain. The man who avenged his sister. Who's protected this kingdom for 3 centuries. Who rescued me when no one else would. Who remembers what warmth feels like." She paused. "And yes, who sometimes makes catastrophically bad decisions and needs to be told when he's being an idiot." The laugh that escaped him was broken, but real. "I am an idiot. Occasionally. I'm also utterly, impossibly in love with you." The words fell between them like stones into still water. Thalia's breath caught. "Darius. I know it's too soon. I know I have no right. But 700 years teaches you not to waste time on lies." His free hand came up to cup her face. "You make me want to be better. You make me remember why I started protecting people in the first place. You make the endless years feel like maybe they're leading somewhere instead of nowhere. I'm mortal. I know. I'll age. Die. Leave you alone again. I know." His thumb brushed her cheekbone. "And I'll take 30 years with you over 300 alone. Every time." Thalia felt tears slip free. "I care about you too. More than I should. More than makes sense. Then let me prove I can be worthy of it. Let me show you I'm more than what you saw today." "How?" His smile was soft, vulnerable, nothing like the predator from the council chamber. "By finishing what I started. The right way. Justice, not vengeance. Trials, not executions. Building something better instead of just destroying what's broken." He pressed his forehead to hers. "With you beside me, if you'll stay. I'm not going anywhere. Promise me." "I promise." They stayed like that, two broken people holding each other together, as the sun set over a kingdom that was about to change forever. What would you do if someone you cared about showed you their darkest side? Could you see past the monster to the person underneath? Tell me in the comments. 3 weeks later, the kingdom had a new council. Not appointed by Darius, but elected by the people, overseen by judges who actually believed in the law. Pharaoh and his corrupt allies stood trial, faced the families they'd destroyed, and were sentenced to exile. The same exile they'd inflicted on so many others. Justice, not vengeance. It was Thalia's idea, and Darius had followed her lead. The kingdom was healing. Slowly. Carefully. But genuinely. And in the Corvain estate, something else was healing too. Thalia had moved her practice to the village nearest the estate. Darius had built her a proper clinic, stocked with every herb and tool she could need. People came from across the kingdom now, no longer afraid of being condemned for seeking help. She saved lives. He protected her while she did. It was a partnership neither had expected, but both desperately needed. Evening found them in the conservatory again, the place where everything had shifted. Thalia was grinding herbs, Darius reading beside her, his hand occasionally reaching out to touch hers, like he needed to confirm she was real. "The Hendersons want to name their daughter after you," Thalia said, not looking up from her work. "The baby you helped me deliver last week." "Absolutely not. Darius is a terrible name for a girl." "They meant me, you impossible man." "Oh. Well, that's acceptable then." He turned a page. "Though I did provide excellent moral support during the birth." "You fainted." "I became strategically horizontal to avoid interfering with your work." "There's a difference." She laughed, the sound bright and free. He discovered he would do absolutely anything to hear that sound. "I never thanked you properly," she said quietly. "For everything. The clinic. The justice for those families. For stopping when I asked you to. You thank me every day by being here. By choosing to stay." He set his book down. "I'm the one who should be thanking you." "For what?" "For seeing me. Not the legend or the monster, but me." He pulled her into his lap, careful and gentle. "For making 700 years of loneliness worth it because they led me to you." Thalia wrapped her arms around his neck. "You're being sentimental. I'm aware. It's your fault entirely." She kissed him, soft and sweet, tasting like the tea she'd been drinking and the forever he'd been searching for. When they pulled apart, his eyes were bright, almost human. "I love you, Thalia Brennan. My healer. My conscience. My home. I love you too, Darius Corvain. My protector. My impossible vampire. My unexpected forever." Forever is a long time for a mortal. Then we'd better not waste a single moment. Outside, the kingdom celebrated new leadership and new hope. Inside, two souls who'd been alone far too long celebrated finding each other. The council had given Thalia 3 days to leave or die. Instead, she'd found a king, changed a kingdom, and discovered that sometimes the most terrifying creatures make the safest havens. And Darius, the ancient vampire king who'd spent centuries perfecting loneliness, learned that the bravest thing he'd ever done wasn't ending armies or protecting kingdoms. It was opening his heart to a stubborn healer who refused to be afraid of him. Months turned to years. The kingdom prospered under fair rule. Thalia's clinic became legendary, training new healers, saving countless lives. And always, in the shadows, watching with glowing eyes and fierce devotion, was the white-haired vampire who'd learned that love was stronger than any darkness. They built a life together. Messy, complicated, impossibly beautiful. She remained mortal. He remained eternal. But for every moment they had, he chose her. And she chose him. And in a world that had tried to destroy them both, that choice was its own kind of magic. The council had been wrong about many things. But mostly, they'd been wrong about this. Thalia Brennan didn't need 3 days to leave. She needed forever to stay. And with Darius Corvain, the vampire king who'd finally found his queen, forever was exactly what she'd get. One heartbeat at a time. So there you have it. A condemned healer and an ancient vampire who found love in the ruins of injustice. If this story grabbed you, if Darius and Thalia made you believe in unexpected love, then I need you to do something for me. Don't just watch and vanish like a ghost. Hit that subscribe button. Become part of this family. We're building the fastest growing vampire love stories community on YouTube, and your support is what keeps these stories coming. If you love this one, I have something to tell you. The next story is even more emotionally twisted, even more dramatic, even more impossible to stop watching. I'm talking about a love that defies not just death, but time itself. Click that video on your screen right now. Don't make me beg. You know you want to know what happens next. And if you watched all the way to the end, if Darius and Thalia's story made you feel something real, then leaving without liking this video would honestly break my heart. One click. That's all it takes. Let me know this mattered to you. Let me know you want more. Where are you watching from? What part of the world is experiencing this story right now? Drop your location in the comments. I love seeing how far these stories travel. Now go. Click that next video. Let's see if you can handle what's coming. Because trust me, you're not ready.